Sup Shredders, my name is Logan aka Spiderhands and welcome to an SB Reacts where today we got ourselves a track from an act named AEYZHIA, titled Eyes Wide Open, and if we switch over to here we got ourselves a track on the screen on YouTube, the music video for it. Apparently this is their second original track that they've released and we're going to listen through it from start till finish and we're going to hear what we think. We're also going to be giving the song an overall score out of 10 based on various musical criteria at the end, but for now, let's do it. Let's go. What have we got?
You won't catch a thing, so focused on yourself, you don't have the capacity. It doesn't affect you until it does, that's the reality. And everyone's safe until they're not. It could be anyone of us.
I like the cinematography, the angles there. Great shift to arpeggios there.
If I were to take a stand, eyes wide open, now we know what's happening. Well, the longer we all sit by, the worse it'll be. You think it doesn't affect you, but it does. This is our reality. And everyone's safe until they're not. It could be anyone.
Such an interesting meter change and tempo shift. So focused on myself, but now I can see it doesn't affect you until it does. That's our reality, and everyone's safe until they're not. It could be anyone of us. It's kind of a surreal audio-visual experience. How impactful. We're going to talk about it more in the conclusion. Because welcome to the conclusion of my review of this track from an act named AEYZHIA, titled Eyes Wide Open. In this section, I'm going to provide an overall song analysis of everything from lyrics and vocals all the way through to studio production, as well as any applicable constructive critique, and then finally, my general thoughts from a listener's perspective. I should also note that I gave the song an overall score of 7.9 out of 10, which I feel was quite a strong score because it's quite a strong song. And we're going to get into why that is in a moment, but before we go any further, what do we think this track is about? I think the simplest way to explain the experience I've had with this is effectively listening to someone, especially with the imagery of the protests and everything like that within the video, discussing the perspective of someone across various facets who simply doesn't care because they're not affected by it until they will. And it's almost like insinuating that it's just a ticking time bomb until those people who are sort of apathetic to it or unbothered there, they see the stuff that's going on in the world, and because it's not directly affecting them because they're so focused on themselves and getting by, whether it's the rat race or simply because it just benefits them, or they just prefer not to think about other people because they just become inherently selfish. It's like they're in a pot boiling and it's just boiling a bit less slowly than the other frogs in their pots. I feel like it's a really impactful track. There's more nuance to it than that, but it's clearly something that's very, very important to AEYZHIA on the microphone here. It's a really, really cool audiovisual experience. The music repeats itself on several occasions. You have iterations of this main messages and hook lines, but it's done in a way where there's different stages of the video. For a lot of it, we have our guitar and vocals coming together. And there at the end, even though there are guitars in the background, they kind of put their guitar down for a moment, almost like looking around there to kind of sort of accept things or sort of see things for what they are. And you have the imagery of the people going out there and doing something. And then, of course, you have the end saying, do not hide, as per what we've got on the screen right now. There's just a fantastic vocal technique behind it though. We're very comfortable in a head and chest voice. We explore our range really neatly. We have these wonderful, almost ethereal vocal runs in the upper range that cascade across the guitar performance. That is the undercurrent and accompaniment to it. At the same time though, we have this kind of raunchy kind of grit and fry to our voice that we bring forward in a way that's incredibly expressive and grounding. And so you just have all these different ways that we use our proficiency as a vocalist to express and communicate things. I think overall, it's just a fantastic combination of different angles of approaching a similar topic, or slight variations, or like different facets of a topic. And I think that it makes sense to be a bit more aggressive because you're frustrated with these people that are just deliberately obfuscating their own sort of like sense of duty. But there's also like a kind of a delicate kind of fragility to some of those really beautiful, wistful kind of like upper melodies. I also think that having the heavy reverb on the vocals was kind of neat because what it does is make it seem like almost like these thoughts in your own head, or like you're trying to sort of discuss things across a chasm without other people talking about it. And it's just nice to be able to switch up the actual narrative there and have moments where you're kind of more of a lead element alongside the power chords that you're playing on the electric guitar. Because what I kind of dig about this is just how minimalist the composition is. A lot of the time I wouldn't necessarily be as excited about something like this across a 4.5 minute amount, but it's just that we adjust our sections and variations and tempos and meters in terms of the time signature to between when we're sort of strumming those power chords to when we're arpeggiating or picking elements there. We adjust the way that we put the guitar forward to suit the meter and cadence of our vocals, the speed that we want to take things, speeding up or slowing down. And I dig that. There's harsher kind of accent on those power chords on the Jackson Electric, but at other points there we're a bit more sort of delicate there. We explore some more sort of like slightly complicated melodies, and there's like a different kind of like rhythm to it in a way that makes it more exciting, and it kind of reduces the need to really have another part to it. And I remember pausing it at the 3.5 minute mark because I kind of felt like the track came to a close at that point. So it was kind of interesting for things to go dark and then for the eyes to open and to have that final run there. I do think it's totally fine. And there's just so much space there. And there's just, to be clear, a phenomenal sense of dynamic range throughout this track there. We're not squeezing the mix there or trying to push the loudness too much. There's a bit of like crackle or like digital artificing at one point there when we really kind of belted, but like that's okay there. It's kind of crackling in a way which is kind of raw and not overproduced. Having a cool little melody that plays alongside a different type of vocal layer, you have two different leads complementing each other, and there's a contrast to the more blunt chords you have at other parts. And it's almost like meditative in the sense that the guitar has a similar reverb to the vocals, because even though they're different instruments, they operate within a similar part of the spectrum, and it's almost like they're simultaneously different but together. But you need to have that kind of melding of elements there, but you also need to adjust the loudness so that it isn't too consistent. And there's great use of space as well, allowing things to fade out, which is kind of neat. So we clearly understand how to play our instrument, how to play the guitar, but it's also that we understand how to voice it in a way which is almost uncharacteristic for a kind of guitar like that. You often see those kind of guitars in like rock and metal videos. What I like about just going back to the middle section, I know I've spoken about the vocals already or the lyrics, but what can I do? I am but one man. I feel like that's something that I've heard people say a lot of the time. Like this kind of the self-defeating mentality that because you're one person that you can't do anything there. It's an interesting perspective and an alternate angle that AEYZHIA explores, and I'm just glad that if we have a similar riff we're going back to, we're applying a different vocal topic there, something sung differently to keep things fresh. And as a final comment on like the actual performance in general, I like how some of those reverb tails enhance the upper end and how they kind of glow in that upper register. I think it's kind of neat. But yeah, no, the vocals provide a nice little lead to follow along to. The guitars supplement and play things in different ways to suit. And the kind of push and pull of the rhythm and speed and tempo, should I say, is tight. Just going back to that 2:45 mark where we kind of go between different chord progressions as well. So that's that nice kind of a further adjustment, an extra angle there, a different chord progression to spice things up at that sort of like last third there, kind of on the home stretch before that big finish. That's probably why it felt like an outro to me. So in terms of the theme, I'd say it's probably minor, which is totally fine considering the subject matter. It you know, I don't think that having a major key would be appropriate for it necessarily, having some happy sounding chords behind it. I could imagine though that you could probably put some major bar chords over it, and I feel like that arpeggiated part that you have off of the power chords is a bit more sort of like playful in a weird way, or a bit more gentle. But when we get into that, again, that 2:45 mark that I discussed, it does get a bit more aggressive, and so I just think ultimately, especially with the vocal fry and the extra bit of oomph behind it, so it does kind of center itself around that and kind of loop back into it. And so I think in terms of the studio production, recording, mixing, and mastering, it's good. Like, again, it's a minimalist composition there with just the guitars and vocals and reverb layers and a bit of EQing and stuff like that. But I don't think we really need to do more with it than that. I think that, again, there's enough dynamic range to be able to allow a sense of space and room to breathe from both a compositional production perspective. Music surrounds you in the headphones there, even though it is just guitar and vocals there, primarily because of, again, the reverb tails and how they kind of echo around the place and resonate in the upper end. There's no weird resonant frequencies, and for the most part, I think the vocals and guitar were recorded well. It's just a tight performance there. You know, a little bit of digital artificing again, but aside from that, it's totally fine. It just makes it sound more raw and real. Burst compression limiting was handled, I think, for the most part. No applicable constructive critique. From a final general listener's perspective, it's good to hear the perspective of someone, because I reviewed music this year, and it's very much like one side or the other side, if you know what I mean. And I think that this is a message that can kind of be communicated to what, you know, whoever finds problems in the world they're in, to try not to ignore those problems and to do something about it. I just think it's really clever messaging on behalf of AEYZHIA here. And I hope that people are able to find the solutions they need, and I hope that eventually one day people don't feel the need to protest anymore. Music like this is important. It's important not to be apathetic. It's important to care about something. And it's important to care about other people too. But thank you very much for watching my review of this track from AEYZHIA, titled Eyes Wide Open. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, please do go show them some love via their various social medias and their YouTube page, and stay cool and stay safe, and please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time, as they need the help more than ever with all the crazy stuff going on in the world. And I'll catch you in the next SP Reacts. Spiderhands Out.